going on, everyone? We got 3 dividend stocks for September 2020 today. My name is Lullit, and on the channel I love to talk about how to make money, how to make money, how to make money, No, I'm joking. I love talking about how to make money, but not just how to make it, but actually figuring out how to do it step by step, hands-on, etc. I didn't know a lot of things before, and I'm still learning, as we all are, I'm sure. And with that, I wanted to speak today on 3 dividend stocks I'm looking into for September 2020. And for anyone who's curious, the dividend yields and their percentages will be increasing as we go on throughout the video. So take that as you may, but with that, let's get straight into it. First on this list is Unum Group. Unum Group is the biggest disability insurance provider both in the United States of America and the UK. So with that, let's get straight into the graph. So Unum Group is sitting at $19 and a penny. And the reason it's on this top 3 list is mainly because I think it's a great entry price to get into this stock. So looking at these bottom prices, if you see around that 1990 period of November, December, it's sitting at $9.63. You see this low over here? In December 94, it's at around $19, $18.36 to be precise. And over here, in the year 2000, you have a bottom of $15.59. 03, you have 10. Fast forward to 09, you have 10 again. And over here in 2012, you have a bottom of 1947. And so over here, during this Rona situation, we fell all the way to around this 15 region that we can see. And right now it's sitting at $19 and a penny. And seeing this graph, it's somewhat cyclical of sorts, but seeing that maybe when there's a recession time or a downturn in the economy and more claims in disability and disability insurance, I think that hand in hand, it goes in like this with the graph. But in terms of a long-term hold, in terms of looking at it from a dividend play, I think that it's a great pick. Let's look into the actual dividends and the numbers themselves. So over here we have a dividend yield sitting at 6%. And what's amazing about this is this payout ratio is 21.9%. And with a 5-year growth rate of literally almost 12% and growing 12 years in a row in terms of dividend growth, I think that it's a great, not only as a stock in terms of paying a dividend, but also a DGI stock, a dividend growth investing stock. And if you look at the dividend score on Seeking Alpha, it pretty much is A, B, A, pretty much green all around. Next on this list, we got Magellan Midstream Partners, ticker symbol MMP. It's one of America's largest master limited partnerships dealing with the transportation, the storage, and distribution of petroleum products. Let's look at this graph. So here we have MMP sitting at $39.18. I also think that it's a good time in terms of entry to get in, and seeing the all-time graph over here in May 2012, you have it sitting at around $35.86. And here you have it up, direct upswing to $44.09 in October of the same year. So overall, it did have this ride and it goes up and down, kangaroos a little, and Rona and otherwise. And just due to everything with supply chain, logistics, etc., it's here sitting at $39.18. And let's go on to the dividends here because it's kind of wild. So looking at the dividends, it's here, 10.68% in terms of dividend yield. You have a 10% 5-year CAGR, compounded annual growth rate in terms of dividend. And for 19 years, it's been growing its dividend. So it's definitely another stock that I would consider DGI, aka dividend growth investing. And if you see this payout ratio, it's less than ideal. It is above 100%. But the structure of this company is an LP, limited partnership, or master limited partnership. And so for tax and tax consequences and otherwise, there is different classification when it does come to these dividends. They're known as distributions, and each share isn't actually a share, but it's known as a unit. So I highly advise, I'm not a financial advisor, but definitely look into this if you consider it to be a part of a play in terms of dividend or the long term in terms of growth or otherwise. But other than that, I think it's a solid stock to have as a part of your portfolio, and it could be a diversity play too if you don't have any MLPs at this time or kind of companies dealing with this type of what MMP actually does, aka that storage, that distribution, etc. of petroleum products. So yeah. Last but not least, we have one of my favorites. It's not a dividend growth investing stock. It's actually just something that has been one of the cornerstones for me personally in terms of dividend portfolio, in terms of getting that income, that cash flow to go and reinvest into other positions accordingly. And it's none other than one of my favorites. It's literally one of my favorites for just the cash that it gives. And it's NLY, Annaly Capital Management. What they do is that they're an mREIT company, Mortgage Real Estate Investment Trust. So typically a real estate investment trust has this income coming in, aka this cash flow. For example, rental payments. And those payments, what happens is that's paid directly to some degree, usually 90% or more, depending on how REITs and what their payment is structured as. But let's say 90% of whatever that rental cash flow is again given to the shareholders themselves. In terms of an mREIT, how they make money is basically on the purchasing / the interest gained by the actual mortgages or the mortgage-backed securities that Annaly has under its belt in terms of how it makes its own money. And so let's get into these dividends. So right before that, Annaly Capital, it's sitting at $7.46. And basically, as we can see, it's around that region of $7 to $8 here in the year 2000. And other than that, it does linger around that $20 region over here. And over here in 2010 to around, a couple of years, it's around almost 20, but kind of more in that 15 to 20 range or 15 to 18 range, I would say. And so, yes, definitely, in a way, it's easy to see that Annaly Capital looks like it's just downtrending, but at the same time, being in the business that it does, that dividend yield does stick to the 12%. And so in terms of the long term, I wouldn't say that it's more of a growth play, but it definitely has something where you can definitely average in and keep buying along the way to maintain the dividend yield that you really want. So looking at the dividend yield, Annaly Capital, here we go, 11.89%. Dividend growth, 0 years. Also, in the last few years, it has been going down in terms of its growth rate. Payout ratio is 88.7, not as high as Magellan Partners, but at the same time, it's different structures and different types of businesses in general. So it's not the best metric, really. Overall, NLY isn't really a good-looking stock from the way we look at it from the high-level highlights. But in terms of the strategy here for me personally, is that I like to use the cash flow from NLY, that 12%, aka 1% a month, literally, and using that cash flow to play either the speculative bets, use that capital for maybe option plays, use that capital to reinvest into companies like Unum Group, like MMP, etc. And I can drip it into itself, but I tend not to do that. I use NLY more of a way to make certain cash, but it's not something where I would want it to be a long-term position or more than a certain percentage allocation in my overall portfolio, for me personally at least. All right, so if you've come this far, thank you so much for coming to the end. Thanks for listening to my 3-stock kind of picks per se for this month in terms of dividends. And finally, I know NLY, some people may be thinking like, yo, who is this guy? But for my strategy and me personally, it has been working and it works quite well. And so I'm happy with it, but maybe that's an idea that works for your investment strategy, but to each their own. Again, not a financial advisor. You know how it is. You know the drill. So with that, thank you so much and hopefully see you next time soon enough. Peace.